Do you know that the richest man to ever walk the earth wasn't a tech billionaire or oil tycoon, but an African emperor from the 14th century? His name was Mansa Musa, a name that should echo through history but is barely mentioned in modern textbooks. Welcome to Roots Revisited, the channel where we uncover the rich, untold stories of Black history. Today, we bring you the extraordinary life of Mansa Musa, Emperor of Mali, the man whose gold shook the world, and whose generosity and leadership left a legacy far beyond his time. Who was Mansa Musa? Mansa Musa was born in 1280 and became the ruler of the Mali Empire in 1312. He wasn't even the heir to the throne originally. His predecessor, Mansa Abu Bakr II, reportedly left on an expedition across the Atlantic and never returned. As his deputy, Musa was appointed to rule, and that moment changed African history forever. He ruled over the Mali Empire, one of the largest and wealthiest empires in African history, during its golden age. His empire stretched across present-day Mali, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Niger, Nigeria, Chad, and Mauritania. It was home to some of the world's richest gold mines at the time. Musa's name, Mansa, means King of Kings, or Emperor, and he lived up to that title. The gold and wealth beyond measure. Now, let's talk about the wealth, the part of Mansa Musa's story that often leaves jaws dropping. Historians believe that no one, past or present, comes close to Mansa Musa's wealth. Some estimates place his fortune at over $400 billion in today's currency. But the truth is, his wealth was so vast, it was literally immeasurable. He controlled more gold than the rest of the world at that time, and the Mali Empire was responsible for producing nearly half of the world's gold during Musa's reign. Imagine this. Gold was so abundant in Mali under his rule that it lost value during his travels. Yes, he was that generous. The famous pilgrimage to Mecca. In 1324, Mansa Musa embarked on a pilgrimage to Mecca, fulfilling one of the 5 pillars of Islam. But he didn't go alone. He brought along a caravan that stretched as far as the eye could see. Over 60,000 people were said to accompany him, soldiers, servants, and officials. Among them were 12,000 slaves, each carrying 4 pounds of gold. He took 80 camels, each carrying up to 300 pounds of gold. As he passed through cities like Cairo and Medina, Mansa Musa didn't just pass by, he transformed them. He gave away gold to the poor, built mosques, and boosted local economies. But his generosity had unintended consequences. In Cairo, he handed out so much gold that the economy suffered inflation for over 10 years. This journey made him internationally famous. His name began to appear on European maps, and Mali became known around the world as a land of unimaginable wealth. The rise of Timbuktu, a center of learning and trade. One of Mansa Musa's greatest legacies lies in the transformation of Timbuktu, a city that became the cultural, religious, and intellectual heart of West Africa. After returning from his pilgrimage, Musa didn't just hoard his wealth. He used it to build. He commissioned architects from across the Islamic world to construct stunning mosques and universities. Among the most famous was the Djinguereber Mosque, built in 1327, a structure that still stands today and remains a symbol of ancient African brilliance. Under Mansa Musa, Timbuktu became a beacon of education, drawing scholars, poets, and theologians from across Africa and the Middle East. The city's Sankore University housed thousands of manuscripts on science, law, history, and philosophy, making it one of the greatest centers of learning in the world at that time. This was long before many European universities were even established. Timbuktu proved that Africa wasn't just rich in gold, but in knowledge, culture, and innovation, religious legacy and moral leadership. Mansa Musa was a devout Muslim, but he also respected traditional African beliefs. His rule brought Islamic scholarship to West Africa, blending it with local customs in a way that strengthened unity, rather than causing division. He built hundreds of mosques across his empire, and emphasized education and justice. He didn't just rule with wealth, he ruled with wisdom and integrity. Musa's death and the decline of the empire. Mansa Musa ruled for about 25 years. He died in 1337, and his descendants inherited the empire. But none could match his leadership. Over time, internal struggles and the rise of other powers led to Mali's decline. But the legacy of Mansa Musa lived on, in architecture, in Islamic culture, in scholarship, and in the stories passed down across generations. Why Mansa Musa's story matters today. In a world where Black excellence is often erased or overlooked, Mansa Musa's story serves as a powerful reminder. Africa had kings who ruled empires, scholars who built universities, and cities that led the world in trade, education, and culture. When we talk about Black history, it's not just slavery and struggle, it's power. innovation, and legacy. Mansa Musa's impact on global maps and perception. During Mansa Musa's reign, the Western world took serious notice of Africa, perhaps for the first time with awe rather than ignorance. In 1375, nearly 4 decades after his pilgrimage, Mansa Musa appeared on the Catalan Atlas, one of the most important world maps of medieval Europe. He was illustrated sitting on a throne, holding a golden scepter and a gleaming nugget of gold, a visual symbol of unimaginable wealth. To European mapmakers, this wasn't just geography, it was mythology made real. Africa wasn't just the unknown anymore, it was the land of gold, ruled by a black emperor. The spread of gold and the ripple effects on global economy. Here's something often overlooked: Mansa Musa's lavish distribution of gold didn't just impress people, it had economic consequences. The sheer volume of gold he gave away in Cairo and Mecca during his pilgrimage caused inflation. Gold lost value temporarily in some regions due to how much he shared. He essentially disrupted the global economy, without violence, without colonization, but simply with generosity. This shows the scale of his empire's wealth, and how interconnected the ancient world really was. Musa wasn't just a local king, he was a global economic force. Mansa Musa in popular culture and modern memory. Even today, Mansa Musa's story continues to inspire. He has appeared in documentaries, comic books, animations, and even hip-hop lyrics. Artists like Jay-Z have referenced him, and he's frequently cited in discussions about who the richest people in history truly were. Yet, despite his monumental story, many people outside Africa still don't know his name. That's why telling this story matters, because it reclaims the narrative of Africa as a place of power, civilization, and influence long before colonialism. Mansa Musa versus modern billionaires, a wealth comparison. While names like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos dominate today's headlines, economists and historians still argue that Mansa Musa remains the richest person to ever live, when adjusted for inflation and economic context. His wealth wasn't stored in bank accounts or stock portfolios. It was in vast gold reserves, control over critical trade routes, and the immense land and human resources of the Mali Empire. Some estimates suggest his net worth would exceed $400 billion today, possibly more. But unlike modern billionaires, Musa's wealth wasn't just personal, it was a reflection of the prosperity of an entire empire. And unlike many wealthy figures of today, Mansa Musa's legacy was rooted in development. He used his wealth to build schools, libraries, mosques, and cities that still carry traces of his vision centuries later. Mansa Musa's influence on education and knowledge preservation. Timbuktu wasn't just a trading hub, it became one of the intellectual capitals of the world under Mansa Musa. The city housed the Sankara University, attracting scholars from across North Africa and the Middle East. It held hundreds of thousands of manuscripts on astronomy, medicine, philosophy, and law. This wasn't just African knowledge, it was global knowledge, preserved by African hands. Musa's investment in education made Mali a beacon of literacy and scholarship, even at a time when much of Europe was still recovering from the Dark Ages. The decline of the Mali Empire and Musa's legacy. After Mansa Musa's death around 1337, his successors struggled to maintain the same level of control and prosperity. Internal conflicts and external pressures weakened the empire over time, but his legacy endured. The architectural wonders he commissioned, the manuscripts he preserved, and the legends he left behind have survived generations. Today, Mansa Musa stands not only as a symbol of African wealth, but as a reminder of a time when Africa led the world in culture, commerce, and education. Mansa Musa's cultural and religious impact, plus conclusion and call to action. Mansa Musa was not only a political and economic giant, he was a cultural and religious icon. As a devout Muslim, he wasn't interested in wealth for wealth's sake. His infamous 1324 pilgrimage to Mecca, Hajj, wasn't just a personal religious journey, it was a public display of power, generosity, and faith that reshaped how the world saw West Africa. He built mosques across Mali, some of which still stand today. His patronage of Islamic scholars brought in architects, artists, and theologians from far and wide. Mali, under his leadership, became a melting pot of Islamic and African traditions, helping shape a unique cultural identity that influenced regions far beyond its borders. But his generosity also had global consequences. During his pilgrimage, Musa gave out so much gold in Cairo that he caused mass inflation, devaluing the metal for over a decade. This unintended effect proved just how much power he wielded, not just locally, but globally. Legacy in the modern world. Today, you'll find Mansa Musa's image in history books, museums, and documentaries. Timbuktu, though now diminished, remains a symbol of Africa's intellectual heritage. Mansa Musa defies the stereotype of a poor pre-colonial Africa. He reminds us that there were once African empires, whose wealth, influence, and knowledge rivaled any in the world. So next time you hear about the richest man alive, remember, before tech empires and oil billionaires, there was Mansa Musa, the emperor of gold, the builder of cities, the patron of scholars, and the man whose legacy still echoes centuries later. Call to action. If you found this story of African greatness inspiring, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more untold histories and fascinating Black stories. Drop a comment below. What surprised you the most about Mansa Musa's life? This is just one chapter in the rich history of Africa. Let's keep revisiting our roots together.